Looking at the Portuguese news on the 8th of May 2026. It is the Portugal Resident News Review, and we've got a special guest, Lonny McLaughlin, joining us in just a moment. Before we bring him onto the screen, how are you, Natasha?
I'm good.
Excellent. A simple good. You throw me with the lack of complexity in your answer, but I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, I think it's taken a long time, but I don't sweat the small stuff.
It's taken, wow, okay, that's a whole topic in its own right, and maybe we should do a special on that. This morning, we're looking at 3 news picks, so let's bring our special guest onto the screen. I'm going to give him a round of applause for this. Let's bring him onto the screen. This is Lonny, who's joining us. And Lonny, you are in Porto, in the north of Portugal. Great to have you here. Among the many wonderful things you've done moving to Portugal, you've got married here, you've exhibited your art here. I think it's fair to say you're having a great time of being in Portugal as an American.
I love it here. I really love Porto and I love Portugal. It's my home.
Excellent. Great to have you here. We will kick off with your first news pick then, if we may. Something to do with the future of Portugal, I think.
Yeah. Do you have it? Are you going to put it up?
I am going to put it on the screen for you. Yeah. You and the Prime Minister of Portugal. Did you ever imagine this, that you would be on a screen here in Portugal with the Prime Minister?
No, I actually hadn't. I hadn't planned that. It was an interesting article. As I read it, I had to notice my own response to it. And when you read the list of things that are being proposed, I got overwhelmed about three items down.
Exactly.
I think if anyone's read the article, most people would agree that many of the ideas are necessary. And I've been here 5 years. Many of them are long overdue. But I also noticed that they've been talked about repeatedly for 5 years. And, I think repeating these big announcements, I've watched it here in Porto, when citizens don't see any visible follow through, I think people get discouraged, public trust erodes. It's hard for me to listen to any of it like any of that's going to happen. This is all very nice. It's a very good idea. But I think there's a bigger problem, which is let's address one thing and handle that one thing and do it really, really well.
Yes.
And then let's move on to something else. There's a lot of attention on small things that look good and sound great. But there's a much bigger problem. In my view, that would lift people up. Exciting news about possible projects is not it.
No, fair enough. And it would bring what we might call a transformation fatigue. There isn't time to read out all these things. What I would say is it must have been a hell of a presentation and went on for several days, presumably, with all these things here. But we totally take your point. How would you respond to that, Natasha?
I think he's absolutely got it right. And I mean, I think Lonny's viewpoint is the viewpoint probably of many. It's certainly my viewpoint. It's just incredibly boring that what they do is they keep coming up with these things in a self-congratulatory way. Yeah. And they're all clapping, isn't he marvelous, isn't he marvelous? But at no point are journalists allowed to ask questions or even ask questions that would say very much the same as Lonny has said. Come on, this has been said for years, or this is 20 years, late. And where are the timelines? Because there's this list of great intentions. Yeah. But there's absolutely no timeline. Sure, they say that it should all be done by, I think, 2034. But I mean, they don't say this thing should be done by X time and that one. And there's so many intentions that they're all going to get just lost.
Yes.
Well, if we do it the way we've done things, it won't make any real difference. We'll have another project that's done 90% of the way, 90% of excellence. It will not contribute to a transformation. Yes, it's a nice thing to have, but it does not alter the resignation that people have about the government. It does not alter people's wanting to participate in any way. It's just like, government's going to do these nice things for us.
Yes.
And it gets old. I come from a country where there's a lot of that going on.
Exactly. Unfortunately, I think that might be part of the problem, because if you've got, the leader of the leading country of the sort of so-called free world, basically saying preposterous things all day long, then all the other countries do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because it's allowed.
Yes.
Suddenly it's okay. We can all lie. We can all say nonsense. No one's ever going to, see that we're accountable, because we'll be gone by then.
Yes. I noticed there's what you've picked up on, Natasha, in your reporting of this is a lot of the disaster stuff. It would appear to be, the plan also involves a creation of a fund to support natural catastrophes, a new calamity law. What was of particular interest to you about that? Why did you focus on that particular part? And what do you think they're trying to tell us?
Well, that's one of the reasons why they came up with the whole plan in the first place, because of the devastation in the centre as a result of the storms. They said we have to have a plan to build back better. And then they said, why don't we, well, we're thinking of building back better, transform the country, in a way that's never been seen before. And everybody starts clapping and here we go again kind of thing. But the problem with this plan is that it's got these 3 phases, and the first phase is meant to be finished by July this year, and that is the rebuilding back of the people's businesses and houses, and that's nowhere near on track.
Are we? We're not
so
seeing
that shows us right from the start, doesn't it, that this plan is basically never going to end the way it says. So 2034 will become 2044, 2052,
and
whatever.
And resignation that Lonny talks about will fester. Lonny, by the way, Mickey Mayers is here saying, love Natasha, one of your fans is here this morning.
That's very sweet.
Lonny, if you were to pick one thing then, as you suggested, and do it well, what would you choose from your experience of living here in Portugal?
Well, I think differently than most people. I don't really care so much about the details of things. What I care about is the context in which it's being done. Mm-hmm. Meaning, if we focused on something like if I would come up with a grand plan, it'd be something like Portugal proud.
Yep.
And what does that mean? It means do the best you can with the tools you have to make a really big difference in your little corner of Portugal. And if everybody were doing 100% of the job that's expected of them, many of the issues would clear up. Many of the issues would clear up. Mm. So, for example, if we were to pick one thing, let's have the tax code that everyone complains about and makes a sport out of avoiding.
Yes.
Let's make the tax plan simple, and let's make it competitive.
Yeah.
And invite people to participate in it honestly and authentically, the way it's meant to be done. If everyone were participating in the tax code, and the tax code were reasonable for people to do that, especially businesses.
Yep.
They'd have much more tax income and they could reduce the revenue. But nobody wants to. I think a lot of these good ideas obscure the real work and the difficult work of having things like the tax code really work for the people. Mm-hmm. Let's handle the housing issue. It's a real issue for people. Yes. It makes no difference to bring businesses in and completely overwhelm them with a bureaucratic system that doesn't support their business.
Yes, indeed.
No, you're absolutely right. And as for participating in the tax, that would be fantastic, because I there are so many businesses that they don't participate at all. Everything you do is off the books.
Yeah.
And so you can't claim for what you're doing because they're not claiming for it. And you're right. That's the way the country doesn't run.
Yeah.
Well, it's a well-articulated argument. How could it happen? How would it happen?
Well, I think it takes leadership and courage. It takes somebody being willing to be a one-term politician.
Yes, right. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think the title Portugal Proud is fantastic because the Portuguese really want to be proud. They
Mhm.
are proud of being Portuguese.
Yeah.
So I think it would be a fantastic
I
title to
think
run with.
I've been using that here in Porto with the business people that I coach and people that I participate with here in Portugal. And I have honest conversations. I do a meetup online talking about what does it look like to actually bring this idea of Portugal Proud or into my personal place in the world. How do I do the best I can possibly do with the resources I have? I have one client who, for the very first time, is paying all of his taxes, reporting all of his taxes. And what he had to do that is he had to raise his prices to be able to do that. And he's got more business than he's ever had before because people like interacting with him. He's not worrying about somebody looking over his shoulder, getting caught. It gives a person a very different demeanor and a way of being in life when you know you're authentic and true and doing what's expected.
How wonderful. So there you go.
That's a great idea.
Yep, that's Lonny's transformation master plan.
Good for Lonny. Yeah, well,
yep.
You know, vote for Lonny.
Well, I don't want to run for office. I'm not a citizen yet.
I know.
But I did file for my citizenship, which I am really happy about.
Okay, so you're in before the deadline, were you? You're on a 5-year plan, which should only take 8 years, rather than a 10-year plan, which might take 15.
Well, I don't care. It's just the accomplishment of getting it in and getting it done and getting that stake in the ground. You know, at some point I'll be a citizen.
Well, from what we've heard, yes to citizenship for Lonny McLaughlin, who joins us this morning on the Resident Podcast News Review. Thank you, Lonny, for your pick there. Transformation Master Plan unveiled, yours and the Prime Minister's. Let's move on then, if we may, to your choice this morning, Natasha, and that is this horrific situation.
Well, I didn't really want to talk about it, but I suppose we can't let the week go by without talking about it. So I had to pick it.
Yes,
you were
yes.
picking something else. So
and it's not new, is it? It's not new, we should say as well. It's not new. This is a rumbling thing that's had.
It's been going on for ages. It actually started in a way that no one is mentioning at the moment. It'll probably come back up, but it was really rather grim. The way it started was they discovered that there were police, including these two particular young policemen, PSP policemen from the Ratu police station, that had munitions mixed in with their service munitions that could never be traced. And they had things in their lockers, like one of them had a taser that was completely off books, which is not legally allowed the police to have off books munitions. Right. And so they were using, they were already doing something that was really not right, because apparently the bullets they had in their guns, some of their service guns, were untraceable.
Yes.
The whole thing stinks, doesn't it?
And what you're picking up on here is how this is coming to global attention, because we're seen as a peaceful place. We rate highly, don't we, on the indexes of security and safety as a country. And then you have this going on, rumbling on in the background, and it is coming to the attention of global press, is it?
Well, I mean, yes, but then it has done in the past. We have had blips in the past. We had a big expose, I think it was probably about 2015, or it may have been earlier, when the BBC did a big story on police kind of brutality in Cova da Moura, which is a neighborhood in Lisbon. So no, it comes and it goes. And yes, of course, it gets written about when it comes, because there's not much that the international press write about Portugal beyond, the tourism point of view, perhaps, and the people getting caught up at the borders with all these queues. But this is, I mean, to a certain extent, it probably happens in lots of different countries. Yeah, but it is just very, very bad. And this particular case is mainly based on the fact that police are treating the more vulnerable people that they arrest in quite horrific ways, sometimes in ways that are just not acceptable. But not just that, they are sharing these hideous videos of what they do to these poor people amongst groups of other policemen who all are police officers who seem to enjoy receiving the videos, which again looks really bad.
Yeah, isn't it? But it's also how they got caught, I think, as well. Part of how they got caught, and presumably how they will be prosecuted with their recording their own evidence.
Yeah, it's really sad and stupid, and it kind of shows. I mean, yesterday there was this question of should we be making recruitment to the police force, these particular police forces, because the PSP is like one of the more basic ones, along with the GNR, and then you've got the PJ, which is the criminal police. It's kind of higher caliber. There was this question: should we be making recruitment more difficult? And Louise Neves, who is this new minister, who is fantastic and will get to the bottom of this and will weed out all the bad apples without fail. He said, no, I don't think so, because I think as they worked it out, I mean, you're talking about a universe of 20,000 or so agents, and of which there are only a very small percentage of bad apples. The trouble is the bad apples then get all this exposure.
Yes.
So it is very bad.
That is the way.
As a kind of person looking in from the outside and having to report on this, I think some of the problems, it's not just the way they recruit. I think it's probably the way they pay these people. If you're going to pay people a decent salary to uphold the law and keep peace on the streets, you might get a decent intake. Yeah. But if you're going to give them miserable salaries and appalling conditions, because most of the police stations, including the police station in our town, they're in a terrible condition. I mean, they're almost certainly, all of them got infestations of bugs and mice.
Yikes, okay.
Most of them leak dreadfully. And when you go in there, they're all kind of cramped.
They're not feeling well supported, and perhaps it returns in the way in the news pick that you chose, Lonny, to context and how this is set up and how people are treated and what our expectations are.
Yeah.
Would you like to say more on that, Lonny? I mean, how would you begin to transform a police force?
Well, it's going to take a philosophical shift.
Right.
It's going to take a real commitment to not just the police, but all of us. There was a great statesman in Minnesota who said, built his career on a statement: "We all do better when we all do better."
Yes, yes.
And it's a simple thing, but I took that on as you know, maybe 25 years ago, and I really began to confront applying that. You know, if the context of the police department is one in which what is popular is how you're getting around the law, if that's what it takes to belong to the club, is degrade people, operate inefficiently, ineffectively, share with your buddies the horrible things that you're getting away with. If that's the culture, and that's what new recruits see when they come in, then that's the culture of belonging. Everybody wants to belong. So they unfortunately belong to the lowest common denominator of what coheses a group.
Yes.
So you know, it's not an easy one. I have a very idealistic view of human beings, that we all have the opportunity to be and do our best.
Yeah.
And I also know it's the hardest road to take in life. It's very difficult.
Well said, yes. Yeah, very good. And you think, Natasha, this could happen under the leadership of the new Senor Neves? You approve of him, it would appear, and if anyone can do it, perhaps he can. He is making the right sounds about this.
I think the reason I think he will get to the bottom of it, first of all these people will probably lose their jobs, because he says there's no halfway. You know, when they're not behaving with integrity, they've got to go.
Yeah,
but secondly, I think that because he comes from the police and he was a career policeman, and he's kind of tough, no nonsense, I think that he will encourage a different culture. Because what we've had before, when it came to the government kind of minister in charge of these these institutions was somebody who was so completely divorced from that kind of culture, the people that would even go into a police force, that there was no common ground, there was no connection, no mental connection even. And I think now they've got a guy who knows what they're up against and how they operate. And I think it's more likely that there would be a kind of cohesive following.
Yeah, and I think
we've got to see.
Police officers, I think, would prefer to be lectured by their own rather than somebody who doesn't understand the work they do, perhaps. I think that's especially the case.
Yeah, and who's never had to deal with what they have to deal with, because they're dealing with some pretty ghastly situations.
Of course they are. Yeah, absolutely. Comment coming in, not least about your appearance this morning. Love the effort, guest mate. Lonnie's hairstyle rocks, as does Natasha. Thank you for noticing, Pete. And on a serious note, the GNR have a huge recruitment problem with neither enough applicants nor officers. Natasha is right. The key issues, most of them are like the bomberos on €1,000 a month. So, yeah, that was certainly... I mean, it connects, doesn't it, Lonnie, with what you're saying? A decent taxation system where people want to put more in would allow for more salaries for the people doing the important jobs in society.
No. Yeah, exactly. Impact the quality of people's lives. Do the simple tasks. I don't mean to oversimplify the salary issue, but when people are doing better in their jobs and they're going above and beyond and they're incentivized for doing an outstanding job, something starts to shift in an organization, in a culture, in a government, in the police force, for example. Yeah,
and that's not something we definitely necessarily have as part of our culture here in Portugal. I mean, I think people think quite well paid, which also adds to the insult to injury. But that's not a cultural thing, is it, for people to be incentivized and well paid for doing a good job?
Well, look at what happened this week in the armed forces. They're thinking of trying to recruit younger people to the armed forces with the offer of giving them a free driving license, i.e. instead of, because everybody has to pay about €1,000 to get their son or daughter a driving license, and it's a lot. And they were saying, well, listen, come in as a volunteer, and we'll get you your driving license with a military driving school. It's fantastic. It's really worth thinking about for a young person or for their family. And so I think if they started giving perks to people who went in, so for instance, they used to do this with the bombeiros. If you went in as a fireman, you'd get some sort of tax perks, I think. I think it then stopped, but they should be giving people like low taxation if they are in members of the services that are there to protect other people.
Presumably, you can drive more than a tank if you take advantage of this. Lonnie, I'm not sure you agree on this.
I don't like that. I don't like incentivizing people that way. If you deal with the organization, whether it's the military, the police, whether it's a technology company, and internally people are loving their jobs and they're proud of the work they do, you would attract other people to participate in the military and participate in the police and participate in bombarders. It isn't a matter of bribing them to do a job that no one wants to do. We've done that in the U.S. Trump did that with giving people $50,000 to join the ICE organization.
Yeah, look what happened there.
You know, you're bringing in people that are only there for the promise of sticking it out for 3 years to get $50,000, and they do a terrible job.
So they kill people.
I think the focus needs to be on elevating and educating all of us, myself included. I'm dealing with my own resignation about things. I'm dealing with my own reluctance to step up and speak out about some of these things. You know, I have to be careful because I wasn't born here, but I'm married to a Portuguese citizen. I'm in the process of becoming a citizen. I care deeply about my home. Portugal's my home, and I have intense discussions and sometimes arguments with people. And but that's just me. I'm used to standing for what I think is the best for all of us, what's right and true for all of us, even if it isn't what's best and right for me.
Wow. Well, thank you for bringing that energy to our news review this morning. Going back to crime in central Portugal. Maybe Senor Neves wants to visit central Portugal, where the local police station in Pete's neighborhood hasn't had a crime for 7 years. I wonder how they're going about that.
That's
but
amazing.
Exemplary, you would say. And he also adds, I like the fact that the army have reduced the height requirement approximately to 5 feet. So now, quite literally, it's a small army.
Yeah, it's the funny. That was one of the funniest things they ever did. Everyone can be a midget, basically.
In the army, okay.
And I think the next thing is they'll allow you to come in with flat feet, but they haven't said that yet.
Goodness, we've got to draw the line somewhere. Now, that leads us to a somewhat British finish here this morning. My pick is, I think this is lovely. Dearest gentle reader, it says, and this is how the wonderful porcelain company Vista Alegre are in a deal, it would appear, with Bridgerton. Let's have a look at this. Portugal's iconic fine bone china brand, Vista Alegre, and I think they are based up near Aveiro, aren't they? Has announced a deal with Netflix to launch a new afternoon tea set inspired by the popular Regency era series Bridgerton. I've never seen it. I've got a friend who's in it as an extra. Good morning to you, John, and a wife, Polly. They're both extras in it. The Vista Alegre Bridgerton collection has been developed in partnership with Netflix and Shondaland, the production company of screenwriter Shonda Rhimes, according to a statement released by the brand. The new product line seeks to bring the visual world of the series to the table and brings together a Portuguese brand founded in 1824. Vista Alegre is really important to Portuguese culture.
It's beautiful,
with a television production launched in 2020. So thank you to Chris Graham for this. And I guess it's a bit of a palate cleanser after those heavy-duty stories.
I love this, Carl. This is a perfect example of the kinds of things that get the employees of Vista Alegre excited about what they're doing. They're proud of who they are. I've met many of the employees there. And that's a perfect example of people being proud of who they are and what they represent, and a company that's really committed to engaging everybody in that. I can totally get excited about this. I think this is great.
I didn't know that. So you love the company and you're involved, or you just as a
No, I live an hour away. I go to Ilhévu to the museum often. I love Vista Alegre's work. I love the history of the company, and I love what they contribute.
Yes. Well, I add it here today because I think with all of these things going on and, geopolitical global tension, we could perhaps, and this, chimes nicely with the recent visit of our king, yours and mine, Natasha, to Lonny's former colony of the United Kingdom.
My king, you met my king.
Of course we did. Our kings met a couple of weeks ago, and I think this is the perfect way to allow everybody to simmer down a little bit. Why don't we start drinking tea properly again, out of proper Portuguese porcelain? I'm aware that when I make a cup of tea in the morning, I've got a hideous tea bag which I hastily pour scalding hot water onto, squeeze it against the side of a cheaply manufactured mug, throw in some horrific milk that's not organic, or it's been UHT or something like that. My grandmother and Jane Austen would be spinning in their graves seeing us making tea like that, Natasha. This is a revival I'm asking for. This is part of Portugal's transformation plan, because there's an important connection between tea drinking in the UK and the Portuguese queen who took it over there, right, from this country. So let's return to that. Let's start making tea in a teapot again, maybe with loose leaves, organic, full fat milk, and sit down and chat like we're doing this morning. What do you think, Natasha?
Well, I've got all my teapots are growing plants outside on my little terrace. I haven't got a working teapot in the house anymore, but that's also because I've got a tiny house filled with animals that knock over stuff. So my beautiful Vista Alegre china would be within a few days would probably be all on the floor.
A cat will have pushed it off the table.
Definitely.
I get it.
And I think that's part of the thing. These days we are all of us living in slightly smaller spaces. We don't have the same amount of storage, so I've just got a few hooks for my mugs to hang on. You can't hang beautiful Vista Alegre china from a hook, can you?
We need a cabinet with all our lovely
Exactly, but I haven't got space for a cabinet.
Well, you'll have to build some, I'm afraid. Somebody's got to start with this, Lonny. Do you approve of this idea?
I think it's lovely, very civilized.
Very civilized. There we go. Thank you, both of you. Lonny, what a fabulous debut. I hope you'll come back and join us on the news review again.
I really enjoyed your views, actually. That was such a great idea. Proud Portugal. I love it.
Yeah, thank you. Well,
I really like
great
it.
meeting you, Natasha. We'll see you next time if Carl invites me back after rabble rousing.
Certainly will be back, and I'll do my best to serve some tea somehow behind the scenes as well. Bom fim de semana, muito obrigado, and até a próxima. Ciao, ciao.
Bye bye. Bye bye.